Interesting. Well, let me make sure that you guys can hear me. Mic check. I might check. Well, let me make sure that you guys can hear me. Checking, testing. Okay, no audio is coming. Check. I might check. Reason. Well, let me make sure that you guys can hear me. Checking, testing. Okay, no audio is coming. Check. I might check. It's been a while since I did this, man. This is not good. Check, testing. Oh, you guys can't hear me. Why can't I hear it on my computer then? My bad. No audio is coming. Check. I might check. It's been a while since I did this, man. This is not good. That's why. Check. All right, we're good. Testing. Imagine me like having a full-blown conversation and oh, you guys, yeah, there we go. And y'all can't even hear me. That would be pretty sad. But how y'all doing? Happy New Year, first and foremost. Shoo! We're here with another one. Hope you guys are all blessed. Hope you guys all had a great year. Let me pop this out. Oh, well, I don't like this. Why does it look like this for? Even hear me? Yeah, all right. You guys can still hear me. Good. You should be at least. Oh, that's pretty cool. You can actually tap in and see that. I didn't know that. Give me 1 second while I just get myself situated. Let me know in the chat box if you guys do have any questions immediately. But we are going to be talking about heavily what is going on in the real estate market. So if that's something of interest, stick around. Especially if you're trying to buy. That's the one thing I would definitely say. There's some good things happening for those that want to buy. Of course, you just have to take action. And of course, that's always the hardest piece, but I think you'll be all right. Especially if you got me by your side. Man, you got no worries. Quite literally. No. There's a way I had this thing set up before. It's not really working with me right now. Anywho, while I try to figure out all of this good stuff. Yes, we are talking about the buyer's market that we are currently in. And personally speaking, I think we're going to be in it for quite some time. You know, I think at least for this year. So personally, if you're trying to purchase a home, this could be a really good year. I mean, unless if you're really waiting for prices to come down 20, 30%, then that's a whole different story. But If you can make things work with everything with what's happening right now, I think it personally could be a really good time. And I'm not biased on that one. It's just, the opportunities and the deals and the things that I'm hearing other people are making happen, including myself. It's quite remarkable. Some people are happy. I will say that. Let's just put it like that. So the people that are taking action, they are reaping the benefits of it. And those benefits could be literally no closing costs. They can have a lower rate than what most people are probably getting, especially if they go ahead and purchase a home on the resale market. So you pick and choose how you want to go about this entire market in itself. But there's opportunities out there. You just have to, first and foremost, know what to look for. And of course, who to partner with. I think that's the most important piece, because the person you partner with is going to determine what kind of success that you kind of have, which it's unfortunate that you got to leave it in one person's hand. But last year, this is why I think we're going to stay within the buyer's market, at least up until for the remainder of this year, if nothing crazy or chaotic happens, right? Because last year there was more sellers than buyers. I don't know, I'll show you guys it later, but there was a graph that literally had how much of sellers and how much of buyers that was going around on social media for quite some time. And so that is a big component of as far as why the buyer's market is going to be here to last, at least for at least my understanding, the end of this year. Next year, who knows? We'll see what happens then, because that gap was way too much to really make up there. You're not making up a gap like that in a year. I mean, you know how many houses you need to be able to do that? It's literally like millions of houses. So we know that's not going to happen because builders are taking their sweet time with building, anyways, intentionally. And so also I will say the predictions of mortgage rates, right? A lot of the predictions I've seen have kept mortgage rates in that 6 range, right? Low sixes. If I'm not mistaken, low sixes to mid sixes, right? So if mortgage rates are still going to kind of do its same thing and keep everybody in a situation where no one really wants to make a move until rates come down, right? That's also not going to bring more buyers. And it's also going to keep sellers kind of stuck still, which very similar to what we're already going through. And then the last piece, right, as far as a buyer's market, right, the sellers offering concessions, also offering, well, not even offering, but cutting their price. Right now, I know builders aren't really doing that. So if you're looking at a new construction home, you might be SOL if you're really looking for a price cut. I know for one, they're offering a lot of concessions, which depends on which side you're on, could be better than the price cut. But it all depends on how you view what's actually occurring here. This thing keeps delaying itself, and I'm not sure if you guys are getting that worst end of the stick as well. All right, let me see here. In the meantime, let me know where you guys are tapping in from. If you're on the replay, let me know if you're on the replay, right? But one thing I do want you all to do is stick around towards the end, especially when I start talking about what markets are hot, what markets are currently in buyer's markets. That is going to help you understanding exactly what strategy you should be backing, right? Unless if you're actually out there doing the work yourself, then you can use this information to employ in that local market that you're looking to buy in. But yeah, knowing what type of market you're in, whether you're in a buyer's, a balanced market, or even a seller's market, is very important. You don't want to you don't want to put the wrong strategy in the wrong market, because you'll get pissed off at me, and I'll be like, what did I do? And so we don't need that. We don't want that. So of course, just stick around to that point. That way you don't get the worst end of that stick. In my previous stream, I'm just trying to go over just kind of the basics as before we go right into it. But in my previous stream, I think it was 2 weeks ago. It was before the holidays. I talked about the new problem that currently exists in the housing market, and this is a real thing to watch, I will say. If this problem persists, it will get worse for everybody involved, right? So that sellers are not really trying to give up their home. In fact, some of them are even giving up entirely and delisting their homes, which means a tighter supply, which also includes, if we're talking tighter supply and people are delisting their homes, we're also talking about the people who don't want to get rid of their home because of their rate. Or maybe they're going to rent it out to go ahead and live somewhere else. So now they're making even the inventory even worse. So that's what the last stream was really all about. If you want details, go ahead and tap in on that one. Let me know in the meantime, where you guys are tapping in from, what city are you guys planning to buy, or you're just planning, just for. I mean, I would assume, right? If you're here right now, chances are, unless if you just want to hear my voice for whatever reason, chances are you're planning to purchase. And if you're not, let me know why you're here. Because that would be quite interesting. And if you're not planning to purchase, or at least if you are planning to purchase, let me know what's your time frame, right? That way, that's going to give me an idea of what type of strategy you should be employing. Because I know most people that I do come across, especially those individuals that come across me on YouTube, they reach out to me and they're at least 12 months out, right? 12 to 18 months, that's the sweet spot that I experience a lot. And so in that case, most of you guys are all probably renting right now or looking to go ahead and sell your home to purchase again. And you're just trying to understand what's going on in today's real estate market, which I'll start off with stating this question that I get a lot. And I just want to kind of throw it out there just so we can get it out the way right now. And of course, have a more in-depth conversation later. But what should you do right now to get ready if you were to purchase in 2026? And I'm mainly going to be speaking to those individuals that are renting. I mean, if you're selling, you should be in a really good position. You're probably just waiting for the perfect rate, which number one, I will say, don't wait for the perfect rate. I mean, you can be waiting for a very long time. I don't know what the perfect rate looks like, and when I say rate, I mean like the mortgage rate. You could be waiting for quite some time, and if that is the case, you may just miss out on a lot. Right. The miss out on the type of home that was probably perfect for you just because you're focused on one aspect of real estate in itself. So that's one thing. And then also another one is if you're preparing yourself to purchase a home for 2026, know what advice you should be applying. Right. I know I speak here, and I'm gonna be the first one to tell you every single time. I know best the Raleigh and the Fayetteville, North Carolina market. I don't know every other market. This is why I have partners that help me understand. And I don't research these other markets. That's not my playing ground, right? So in that case, that's why I partner. If you are looking at a specific market that I at least don't cover, this is exactly why I partner you with someone that I know that is trusted, that would go ahead and take care of you and make sure they are looking out for your best interests, because not everybody gonna do that, unfortunately. I mean, I could pull up plenty of stories of people not looking out for their clients' interests, which is unfortunate. But hey, you have them, so you got to deal with what you got to deal with. But know what advice to apply to your local market. I hear talk about the national. I talk about what's going on nationally, so that you can understand from like a broader scope of what's going on. And then of course we can, if you let me know where you're tapping in from, we probably can even figure out what's going on in your local market. But if you don't say anything, then it is what it is. But know what strategy, know what information, know advice that you should be applying to that local market. Because just because I'm speaking here nationally doesn't mean that your market is even in a buyer's market, right? You could be in a seller's market, and if you're in the northeast, or the Midwest, chances are you're in a seller's market. Chances are, depending on where exactly we're talking. Again, another thing that you can do to prepare yourself is know your competition. Right. This is really going to be more for those seller markets, not so much of the buyer's market. So, I mean, I'm gonna kind of leave it at that. When I mean by know your competition is just know who you're up against. Especially if you're in a seller's market, know what kind of sellers that you're gonna be going against. Are they cash strapped sellers, right? To the point where you're gonna have to be a little bit more competitive with your offers to even get your offer accepted. Or are you just dealing with a general market that, it's a buyer's market, which means at that point you're just worried that the seller won't remove their home. But I'll move on. I digress on that part. But number four, and after number four, there's one more. So leverage the first time home buyer programs that are out there. Countless times I bring it up to people that I'm working with, and for whatever reason, many people don't know about them. So it's kind of just money that is just there, unfortunately. So know what exists in that market that you're trying to purchase in. That way you can use it, especially if it's going to be helpful for you. And then the very last one is meet with the lenders ASAP. ASAP. At least meet with one ASAP to know where you're at. Right. And once one gives you information, if you vibe with that person, then go ahead and move forward with them. But I highly suggest and recommend that if you're going to meet with one lender, you should at least meet with two others just to make sure that, especially if we're talking about getting a pre-approval, looking at your loan estimate, and making sure all of that stuff checks off, you're going to want at least a few other quotes just to compare, right? And look at, the different things that you can look for, which is your loan points, if there are any, lender fees, what's your cash to close if you were to close at that specific budget that you're looking at. In the meantime, if you know that you already need help, let me make sure I'm still good. In the meantime, if you know that you already need help, then your best bet is to click the link in the description next to agent referral. Complete the entire intake form. That way I can get in touch with you. And of course, if you're looking in that Raleigh to Fayetteville, North Carolina market, you'll be working with me directly. Otherwise, I will have to connect you to one of our preferred partners, our realtor partners, real estate partners, whatever you want to call them, that are out there to be able to take care of you in your local market. Because unfortunately, that is not an easy thing to find. But cool. I am still good. I just want to make sure before we get into the real stuff here. So when I say a buyer's market, for those that do not know what a buyer's market even is, right? That is when you as a buyer have extreme amount of leverage to really not call the shots entirely, but at least that was interesting. But at least to get more for what you're looking for than what you were able to do beforehand. So if you have leverage, use it. Don't just sit on your hands and not utilize it, because then that would make no sense. And right now, what we're seeing is homes are sitting on the market longer. In fact, let me go ahead and do this for you guys. So homes are sitting on the market longer, and we can actually see how long are they staying on the market longer, depending on, of course, what market you are in. So we have days on market. Let's go out 5 years, just so you can really see the difference in comparison to what it was and where it's at now. Again, this is for the entire United States. We are not looking at any specific market. So if you want me to look at a specific market, then just let me know in the chat. And of course, we can have that dialogue or look at it specifically. But this is what we're seeing. So this is as of November of 2025, which I will say in a couple of weeks, we'll probably have December's information, which I'm going to assume is going to be right around the same area, because there's not many people that I know that like to purchase homes in that November, December, even sometimes January timeframe. It's just a lot going on with that, right? With the holidays, and not many people are thinking. But homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer, which also means if homes are sitting on the market longer, inventory is going to be much, much higher, which brings us to this here, right? Months of supply. So the more and more you see this goes up, that does apply pressure to the prices, which I know a lot of you are like clapping right now, because, yeah, everybody wants prices to come down. But I will say, new construction has a way of keeping those prices high. I'm just gonna keep it at that. But with this, of course, this is also good for you as a buyer, right? Seeing this go up. But I know a lot of you guys all want to see the price cuts. So here we go. Let's see what's been happening over the past 5 years. So we're seeing more price cuts than we've seen in the previous years. What happened here on 2022? That was like the mini crash that if you didn't purchase there, you missed out on. Literally. So we are seeing price cuts, right? And these are all elements of a buyer's market, right? When homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer, those homes have a hard time removing itself, which then leaves the seller a few decisions to make, right? Take your home off the market, reduce the price, right, to cater to the buyers that you're looking for. Otherwise, the only thing that's going to happen is you're just more competition is just going to come onto the market. And that's when more listings, that's when you see months of supply rise. And that's when you see even further price cuts. But the very last thing here is sellers offering concessions, and as I've already mentioned, price cuts, right? So this was as of April of 25. So, take this with at least a grain of salt, like a literal grain of salt, because this is literally almost 6 months ago. And so what Redfin found is 44% of home sales from January through March, including concessions such as money towards repairs and closing costs. And as we know right now, that is what a lot of builders are doing. At least they're not doing much of repairs because, I mean, what repairs are you going to do to a brand new home? But they're offering you a lot of concessions when it comes to, what's it called? At least closing costs that I'm seeing. Closing costs, even appliances, rate buy downs. I think those are all of them that that we're seeing right now. So keep that in mind because I just know that right there won't be there forever. And if you think it will be, please let me know. What do you know? Another thing that you'll be able to do in buyer's market, negotiate a little bit better, especially if you get that inspection report and you see it. And I don't know if you've ever seen an inspection report before, but usually it's like the inspector will. Every inspector is different, but most inspectors I've worked with, at least, they'll go ahead and mark down critical items, and there's another one. It's like a orange, which is like, hey, just make a note of it. Essentially, they're just making note of what they found, and of course, green is all right. Yeah, you're good to go over here. But you'll see a lot of red and yellow or whatever color that they use, right? So a lot of critical items that need to be addressed and some items that, you just want to make a note of. So in this market here, in a buyer's market, you're going to be able to negotiate a little bit more of those critical items, which I highly suggest. Yeah, try to negotiate every single one of them, but do as you please there. And I mean, in the buyer's market and stuff, you don't have to waive everything. I'm talking about appraisal, inspection. I hope you don't waive appraisal. If you're waiving appraisal, that means you got cash, and I mean, it makes sense there. But don't waive as much as you can. It just doesn't make sense. You're not protecting yourself. I get it if there's like not many homes. That's probably makes the only that's probably the main reason why you would do such a thing. But just know you are literally taking every issue that comes with that home at that point, and there's nothing that the seller is going to do for you. But earlier I did mention, right, about this graph that you probably did see all year long, which I'll go ahead and show you now. So this is what I was referring to when I said the difference between sellers and buyers. As you guys can see, with the red line is the buyers, and the blue line that you see there is the sellers. That gap is like almost 400,000. No, it actually is 400,000. To be if my math is nice and right on point, it's about 425,000. No, 500 actually. Yeah, it's about 500,000. 500,000 of a difference. So that's how many buyers will essentially bring the market to a balanced state, which that's not happening right now at all. As many buyers that I know that want to purchase, but they're like, I'm sitting the sidelines on this one. You know what I mean? Not quite. We ain't touching that market just quite yet. Right. So you have that you have to work through. And then of course, here's another one that shows you pretty much the same thing, but just in different form, because you can actually see the percentage on this one here. And this is all data from Redfin. So if you ever want to go take a look at it yourself, by all means, you should be able to find it with no issue. But I really like this one better because it really shows you, and it really gives you that idea of how many buyers are actually out there in comparison to how many sellers. And unfortunately, this is all Redfin's data. So it's only going to be as far as what Redfin knows. It's not going to be what everybody, it's not going to be every single buyer that's out there or even every seller out there. Because if I'm working with a ton of buyers or even a ton of sellers, Redfin will have no idea in terms of what's going on in my business. Because it's not like they're reaching out to me like, hey, what's going on? What you got going on in your business? And if they did, I wouldn't tell them a thing. Unless if we had some sort of agreement that we both can win on. Otherwise, kick rocks. You dig? But there's that. Let me know in the meantime if you guys do have any questions. I am looking here to make sure to see if any questions do pop in. Yeah, I just showed you that. So I don't think I need to go over that. And actually, let's go ahead and try to take a look at what markets are buyers markets. This article was okay, so late last year. It's crazy how, I have to say that now because we're in 26. But here is where I want to go, right? So Austin, Texas is the strongest buyer's market. So everybody that ran to Austin, Texas, literally is causing the Austin, Texas right now to be a buyer's market because, of course, everybody, and mainly those individuals who I'm sure that moved over there from California, has caused the Austin, Texas to have a strong buyer's market. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they're actually going through a price correction as well. I don't know if they're still going through it. But here it actually mentions there was an estimate of 114% more sellers than buyers in November. Jeez. Yeah, that's a big imbalance right there. And the next markets for the buyer's market were San Antonio, Nashville, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida. So those were the strongest buyer's markets. So in that case, if you're in any one of those markets or even looking in one of those markets, you might want to go ahead and start negotiating, or else you'll just throw money out the window. You know? I mean, if that's what you're into, then go ahead, knock yourself out. But I will say that's definitely what you can go ahead and do at this current moment. Let me put the screen back up. And of course, Nassau County, if I'm saying that correctly, in New York is the strongest sellers market, which is pretty cool. What other sellers markets were there? Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, Newark, New Jersey, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Milwaukee, San Francisco, and Cleveland. Those are all sellers market, which means if you're looking in any one of these markets, no, Don't try to don't try to negotiate essentially. Get what you can so that you can go ahead and move on with your life in the home that you want to be in. It says San Francisco is another one. Okay, and here's where we can talk about the specifics, right? This is why I want you guys to share with me what markets you guys are looking in. Because then we can focus a little bit more on some of the markets that you probably are going to see here, right? I mean, I can go through them one by one, but you guys should be able to read. So I'll let that go ahead and slide there while, I have I guess we talk a little bit about what's going on here, but these are all where you see buyer's market is the markets that you're going to want to negotiate the best in, or where even you can, because in those sellers markets, essentially there's not a lot of sellers, but there's a ton more buyers. In those markets where you see where it literally states buyer's market, there's just more buyers and there's just less buyers, sorry, and more sellers. So it's the reverse of a seller's market, of course. The balanced market that I see here is Minneapolis, Minnesota. I think that's the only. Oh no, New York. New York is another one. New York, New York. Like, where is that? If it's New York, New York, where exactly is that referring to? As confusing as that can be. All right, we're almost getting to the end here, so I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. All right, this is all good information to have because if you know what type of market you're dealing with, you'll know exactly what you should be doing, right? You'll know if you should be. This is why I say like the strategy that you employ is very important. You don't want to just you don't want to do the wrong thing in the wrong market. You will probably go broke doing that. Or not, I shouldn't say you won't go broke. You will get frustrated with yourself because you won't be able to land a deal on a home. But let's see what happened in all of 2025, right? After we just discussed entirely, what a buyer's market is, what does it look like, what markets are even in buyer's markets, seller markets, balance markets, how exactly can you even take advantage of a buyer's market? Let's see exactly what's going on with the real estate market as a whole. That way you can have a better idea of, is this even a market you still want to play in, right? Because again, nationally, the median sales price is at 433,000, but that doesn't mean your market is at that as well. I mean, I know North Carolina, Raleigh specifically, is around that 433,000, which is crazy because when I moved here in 2018, anything prior to 2020, I mean, this was where you were getting a bargain. Now it's like, no, you're not getting so much of a bargain anymore, at least in this market, right? It could be some other markets where I know that you are. I know a lot of people are getting, and I think we saw it, right? Pennsylvania. I know a lot of people who are moving there because there were too many good opportunities, or at least they were purchasing properties. They were doing whatever they had to do. I just know that Pennsylvania is one of those places that, yeah, it was like that. But home prices reached another all-time high, as we all know, which is insane to even talk about, right? Uh, how are prices still going up? That's probably what you're saying. And again, this is nationally speaking, but prices are going to continuously go up just because for the most part, I shouldn't say it's not always going to go up. It's just going to go up now because of how much of supply there is. Some markets have more supply than others, which is why we saw a lot of those buyers market. But if there's no buyers and the inventory is just sitting there, and if most of that inventory is new construction, yeah, they have a way of manipulating that to their benefit, new construction specifically. But San Jose was the most expensive metro area for home buyers in 2025, and that's in California. I actually have a piece on California that I saw, and I was just like, this is actually disgusting, in my personal opinion. to see that. I'll go over it. It has to do a lot with the fires that went on. I want to say it was a year ago already, which is crazy to even say that that happened a year ago because it felt like it happened just a couple months ago. Here are some other most expensive metros. Oh, shocker, all California. Oh my goodness. So, if you're in California, I mean, you must have deep pockets. Well, I hope you have deep pockets because otherwise you're going to have a really tough time competing. I mean, they probably their wages out there. I hope they pay great, but otherwise, woof. The most affordable metro was Detroit. Okay, and some other affordable metros. So, like I said, ooh, look at that, Pennsylvania. I said Pennsylvania, duh. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia ended up on this list as far as affordable. So you can see each and every single one of these metros are below the national median average, right? Of the national median was about 430,000. Each and every single one of them is below that. So if you're looking for a $200,000 home, don't tell me they don't exist. This is proof right here. This article was maybe done 2 weeks ago, right? Oh, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, almost 2 weeks ago. So I know a lot of people say everything's expensive, but it's like not everything. Maybe in your market, yeah, but not every single house is expensive. Home sales remain historically slow. Yes, we all know that. And if you don't know, yes, sales have been slow just because people aren't really trying to make a move yet. I think everybody's sitting on the sideline waiting for something to occur, whether that's in the economy or in the housing market specifically. But I feel like a lot of people right now are just waiting for something to happen. And once that thing happens, I think that's going to cause a lot of people to, want to even make a move at that point, whether it's moving out of their place or maybe just not being able to stay in their place anymore for whatever reason. Or maybe somebody's like, yep, I was saving up all of my money for this opportunity right here. So I think we're going to get a mixture of both, of all three of those things that I just mentioned. It's just a matter of when, right? The $1 million question. Mortgage rate. This is another thing that happened in 25 that may continue all throughout. Well, mortgage rates steadily drop throughout the year, right? So we'll see exactly what happens with that. Housing inventory, we know that already has increased. Months of supply reach a recent high. We know that because I've talked about this. New listings jumped up. Yes. New construction continued to lag. It's kind of self-explanatory here, but the more and more that new construction lags, the more incentives I can see them offering up until they decide to say, you know what, enough is enough. And when I say that, I mean builders. Inflation crept back up. Not too much. I mean, not towards the end of the year. It kind of settled itself off. The typical home took over a month and a half to sell, right? So this is for all those sellers out there. I think we saw the 50, I think it's like 50 something days on market. Here are some of the markets that are most competitive, which chances are they are in seller's market if they're selling this quickly. And these are some buyer's market. Here's something to be wary of. And if we're seeing it now, chances are we're going to see it later again. But investors coming back into the market to purchase homes. Right. And that doesn't, all cash doesn't, and I should caught myself on this one because all cash doesn't mean they're an investor. But chances, most time it does. Right. So if all cash purchases remain at historic highs, so more investors are getting into the market, that's just another person that you're going to have to compete against. Unfortunately. Right. Just add more confusion or, issues into the whole problem. Inventory investor activity was flat, but still well above pre-pandemic level. Okay, so maybe I'll bite my tongue on this one. If they're talking about all cash purchases remain at historic highs, then it sounds like these are just buyers that have deep pockets because investor activity was flat. But so that part, right? I can't really explain too much, right? My guess is if investor activity stayed pretty flat, then these were people like, hey, I'm not gonna go ahead and get a loan at 6, 7%. Why would I do such a thing? I'll just go ahead and pay the house cash, and I don't have to deal with the mortgage rates, right? So that is all of that. In the meantime, let me know if you guys do have any questions about what we're going over because right now I just want to let you know that right now we're in a buyer's market. So if we're in that buyer's market, what is it that you should even be really doing? I think this is the important piece, especially as a buyer, to understand and how is it that you should be maneuvering? Because that way, if you know how to maneuver it nationally, the housing market, then you should be able to maneuver, especially if you're looking in a buyer's market, which we just went over all the markets that literally were in buyer's markets. So in that case, if you know that information, you know how to maneuver, you know how you won't get screwed over and you won't overpay or deplete your entire savings or find yourself in a situation that you don't want to necessarily be in because right now this is probably the at least in the past 5 years the best time you're probably going to get a deal. All right, when the homes are sitting on the market a little bit longer, when you probably see one or two price cuts and the seller is still not taking their home off the market, right? That's a really good sign that, hey, that's a motivated seller there. You might want to go talk to them. Go tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, I see you got a couple of price cuts here. What's going on? And just stop talking. That's what I would do if I were you. So I'm giving you a little piece of my mind right there. If you really want a great deal, and if you want a good deal, you don't need to hear from me. You already know what you got to do. But it comes down to negotiating at this point. In fact, if you're watching this live or even on the replay, let me know in the comments or chat box, whatever. What's your biggest fear right now about the housing market? Because I'm curious. I know there's a lot of people on the sideline, but I would love to know what's your biggest fear? Is it the rates are too high? Is it the prices that are too high for you? Or you just are unsure about the entire process of purchasing a home, so you don't even know where to start. So you're like, oof, what do I do? All right, let me know while I get this next piece set up because this right here, when I saw this, I was like, yeah, this is not good at all. This is not good at all. Doesn't seem like anything's gonna come through, so let's do this here. Let me share my screen. Oh man, I am beat today. It's been a long day. Let's just put it like that. Hope y'all doing good. Hope y'all staying blessed. Hope the new year is treating y'all all well. But here is what I want to show you. I kind of stayed on the screen for a little bit. Let's get this guy talking about nothing out of here. So those wildfires that we saw in, well, maybe that you didn't see it, but maybe you heard of, saw it on the news in LA. I'm bringing this up because this is a this is like a situation that I want to say like it's unfortunate that this is happening because these are all someone's homes, right? Or piece of these are all parcels of land that had homes on it that now doesn't stay to here, but right here, investors are moving in. These were all homes, whether they were celebrity homes, homes for people who have just lived there for a very long time. They found a way, these investors found a way to go in there and scoop up the land. And I think what makes this even worse, all of this reminds me of what happened in Hawaii. I forgot what part it was of Hawaii when all those fires happened, and next thing you know, yeah, all these people with big deep pockets coming in, scooping in, buying up some of the land. It's just like, dude, this right here is just gonna allow for the average person to be able to purchase a home. It's gonna be even harder and harder and harder. Because you have people with deep pockets being able to scoop up this stuff and, sure, rebuild it, right? That's phenomenal, right? Bring life back to an area that was probably lively for many and have many different memories and experiences that many other individuals can speak on. I've never been to this area specifically in LA, so I don't know what in the world it looked like prior to. But when we have investors, I don't know if y'all hear me though. When we have investors buying and scooping up the land, this is where I say, home ownership is getting further and further out of reach for that individual that really wants to purchase their own home. And we're seeing that it's happening in LA. What makes you think it won't happen in the whole different other area? Right? So I'm just bringing this up because it's like this happened already in Hawaii. It's happening here in LA. So when you see things like this and you see investors, in my opinion, scooping up land, you gotta expect, they're doing it for their benefit, not for yours. And I hate to be the Debbie Downer on that part, but it's just it is what it is. There's so much that most of us are going to do about it. Some people can't do anything about it, and if you can't do anything about it, I highly encourage you sell it to somebody that you know. Don't just let somebody go in there and go get your stuff, especially if Oh man, yeah, it's unfortunate, and this is exactly for anybody tapping in right now. This is what I'm talking about: the LA wildfires. Right now there's investors that are buying up the land essentially, and of course probably trying to bring life back to the whole equation. But we're gonna have it's going to be, I think personally, more detrimental to real estate, especially in LA, where they don't really have land already and it's already damn near expensive as heck, right? Expensive is very subjective to the person that I'm speaking to. But let's just say it's more than the median average home sales price, right? So in that case, in fact, it's double, closer to double to triple the median sales price. So if you ask me, that's like more of a luxury home, if anything, you know. In fact, here's another headline. Right, so vacant lots for sale are piling up after LA fires, and investors are buying 40% of those that sell. Right, you can kind of see, I guess, based off of zip code, what zip code, how many of the lots, whatever's in red is the lot purchases by investors, and then what's in blue is lot purchases by other parties, which is good to see, right? You see how, I don't know who those other parties are, but it sounds like it's somebody that's these individuals that are selling it know, which is what I'm encouraging a lot of everybody to do. As much time as it needs to go ahead and rebuild that area, take the time needed. But you give it to these randoms that already are corporate bonded and they have these big PE private equity companies backing them. Ooh wee. Y'all talk about y'all don't want corporations to go ahead and buy these homes, but you're selling it to them. Which, let's talk about that really quickly. You guys, whoever is out there talking like, stop, don't let these corporations purchase these homes. But When anybody wants to sell a home really quickly and they want cash for it because they just want to move on, they're selling it to a corporation. Maybe it's an individual that has a business, that's fine. But at the end of the day, they're gonna flip it, they're gonna fix it, and they're probably just gonna sell it to somebody else. Unless if they're literally stating to you that they're gonna live in it themselves. When you're selling a house quick for cash, high chance that it's going to be on the market, right back on the market, flipped, ready to go, or is going to be rented out. Which is like kind of you guys that are saying stop letting the corporations purchase homes, you're contradicting yourself there. But I would love to hear what you guys all have to say on that one. But let's go ahead and get back to this one. So here's some more information in regards to the vacant land and single family residential homes that have been being purchased, or at least the active listings it states here. A lot of people are trying to get out of there. And that just talks about that. The just talks about the lots for sale. No questions have come in at all. So you guys must all be smarter than me and know that all this was already existing. And I'm providing you information that you already know. If that's the case, please let me know. Let me know. Because otherwise, I'm doing you all a disservice. Yeah, I talked about this. Here's another something that you really want to look out for, which I talked about, right? So it's the delistings. Does any of this surprise you, though? I'm curious. Going from even the investors buying up the vacant lots. I shouldn't say vacant lot land, would it? The vacant lots to sellers delisting their home. Does any of this surprise you? Because to some people, it may actually be surprising, which I didn't think, personally speaking, and being in real estate, I did not see delistings becoming an issue. Because again, if somebody wants to sell, they're going to actually sell. It may not be on their timeline or their time frame, but someone who lists a home, chances are you already have plans to do something else. So how are you delisting your home? What's changed? And for people to be doing it, like I think what did we read? I don't think we read anything specifically in terms of how many people have been doing it. Let's see if I can find something real quick. Ooh, delistings in October increased 45.5% year over year. Yeah, let me show you this one. 45.5% year over year, right there, and 37.9% year over year. Year. Right, so the delistings increased. So it's like, how are so many people's plans changing? Unless if everyone's just deciding, let's just rent it out and move on with our life. But here are some areas where sellers are saying, peace. They're putting up the deuces. They're taking their homes off the market and doing whatever it is that they want to do with it. You can see here, Miami is a big one where they're delisting a lot, right? Maybe having a ton of trouble because of all the competition that's, right behind them. What's another one? Los Angeles, Riverside, Denver, Dallas, Houston, Nashville. Everywhere else is pretty much not as many homes being delisted. Oh, look at Raleigh, 22%. And then Charlotte, 24%. All right, so delistings aren't good, especially if we're talking about a buyer's market. You don't really want too many delistings because that only means less inventory. And yeah, let me know if you guys do have any questions as we go ahead and go through this. And if any of this is surprising to you, I'm curious to know. Let me know. Because one thing I don't want to do is continue to provide you guys with information that you already know or that you can care less to hear about. So, if any of this information is surprising to you, please let me know because then that would be helpful to me understanding. Like, all right, this is the sort of information that you guys are finding helpful. That way, you guys know exactly how to operate and move in that local market that you're looking to purchase in. And of course, if you're looking to purchase in Raleigh or even Fayetteville, North Carolina markets, I'll be your guy to help you out and navigate that market with you. Otherwise, if you're looking in a different market outside of that, I will connect you to one of our trusted partners that we do have that will go ahead and take care of you. These are individuals that, again, I have a relationship with. So, there's a reason why I have a relationship with them is because, we do business very similar. And so you can have somebody that's going to be looking out for you and be someone that's going to look out for your interests at least. In the meantime, let me know if you guys have any questions, if any at all. If no questions are about to come in, then the heck is that? Oh, that's this thing. If no other questions are about to come in, this is what I would do for y'all. So, huh, why did that have to show up? There we go. So here's a question that I constantly get that I'll go ahead and just share with you guys, and we'll have a quick conversation on it. So, should you wait? I think this is a market where entirely you take your time. Just because it's a buyer's market doesn't mean you have to rush out there and go purchase, right? Buyer's market means you take your time, you make sure that your situation, the payment, location of the home in itself is all of it checks off, right? This is your time to be real diligent with your entire process and not rush it because especially if you have time on your hands, right? I think the earlier you start, the better because then you can make an informed decision. But if you're backed against the wall and you have to, be out by a certain time because you're renting a place or, you have a job relocation or the kiddos are starting school, right? And you wait the last minute, then of course, your back is against the wall. You got to move quickly there. But in this market here, should you wait entirely? Not necessarily. I think keeping your eyes open, seeing what's already out there, seeing what is available for what you can and cannot get is very important and going to be helpful to just your entire process in itself. If you go ahead and wait and sit on the sidelines, this is what may occur. You're not going to look at all. You're going to just let everything go by. You're going to wait for the news to go ahead and share with you some crazy headlines saying rates are so low. And then you're going to go rush into the market. You're going to go ahead and compete with everybody else and you're going to buy something that you may not like in a year or two later, and then you're going to try to sell it, and hopefully, because if you're buying real estate just to go ahead and sell it for a loss and not make a profit, and I don't know what you're doing out there, but you should be buying these, you should be buying any home, asset, anything, right, to be able to sell it for a greater profit. That's otherwise, what's the point? Yeah, you put a roof over your head. That's great. But if you put a roof over your head and pay down a mortgage, you might want to build some equity in the meantime, right? But I digress, right? That's just my 2 cents. I say personally to those individuals that are on the sidelines saying, I'm going to wait, at least keep your, dip your toe and understand what's going on, see what's happening in your local market. That way, when you're ready, you're not just like overwhelmed or even not sure what's going on at all. Because that way, if you've been dipping your toe in, you'll know what neighborhood that you want. You'll know exactly where you need to be. You'll know exactly the type of home You'll know what your payment should look like. You'll probably even know how to get that payment. So there's so many different ways of going about it. I know everyone's gonna wait and say we're gonna wait for a crash, and it's like, yeah, I've been saying the same thing since 2020. The market's gonna crash. I love the doom and gloomers. If the market crashes, a lot of people are not gonna purchase homes. I'm just gonna say that, unless if you have cash. Because again, when the market crashes, whether it's in real estate or whether it's the economy, people lose jobs. Let's talk about that. I think that's a piece that a lot of people forget. When there's a crash or something bad with the economy, these employers are gonna say to everybody that they can, "Bye, get out of here. I have to cut costs. This is not looking good for us right now." So it's not gonna look good for many individuals when everyone's so hopeful for a crash. People are going to lose jobs, and you better hope that you're not one of them because then you just set yourself up. Which also, at the same time, real estate is very hyper local. So even if there's a crash, did it affect that market that you're even looking in? Right? Because it can affect a different market way differently. Like right now, we saw Austin, Texas, Florida. We know is at least the areas around Miami. I want to say Miami specifically, right? Those were all buyers market. Those were all markets where a lot of people moved to and probably looking to make a change now at this point. So there's a lot of inventory. Prices are coming down. Those markets are going through crashes. So crashes happen everywhere. It's just a matter of are you aware of them? And this is why I say if you're gonna wait, at least dip your toe and understand what's really happening. But no question is coming in. I've reached that point where we're at the top of the hour, and it seems like y'all just don't want to hear me speak anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and skedaddle. If you do need any help when it comes down to real estate, you should know by now how to reach me. Click the link in the description below next to agent referral. Especially if you're looking in that Raleigh to the Fayetteville, North Carolina markets, then we'll be working directly with each other to make sure we create that plan for you and make sure we go ahead and get you the home you want and the timeline that you're looking for, with of course the payment that you want as well. This is what we do over here. Right, we understand exactly what you're not going through, but what you're trying to do when it comes to your real estate goals, and we try to make it happen, and we try to get it done to exactly to the T that you explained it to us. And of course, if there's adjustments that have to be made, you'll be well aware and well equipped of what's happening as far as why something can or cannot work out. However, if you're looking outside of that Raleigh and that Fayetteville, North Carolina market, then go ahead and still click the link in the description, fill out the form entirely, and I'll connect you to one of my partners, my real estate partners, real estate agent partners that will go ahead and assist you in a way that makes sense, that at least I approve of, at least. And so if you want to be taken care of, you want somebody that's going to look out for you and look out for your interest, then yeah, that's the place you want to begin. But with all that being said, I'm out of here. Y'all have a blessed night. I may pop in next week, next Wednesday. We will see. It all depends on the type of news, because y'all ain't show me no love today at all. But nah, it's all good. Show up regardless, because the information y'all need to know, especially when I think this is probably one of the last years that we will have this sort of opportunity. And I'll leave it at that. Peace out. Y'all have a good night.